Hey everybody, it's You Had to Ask, the show where I answer your questions, and this week's first question comes to me from Jonah Bloom, who asks, Steve, what was the biggest backlash on any one of your videos? The most significant negative response I've ever gotten to videos has been on the ones I did about Ron Paul and then recently on the men's rights movement. By far, those are the two most downvoted subjects I've ever made videos about. I made, I think, 2 Ron Paul videos. No, I made 3 Ron Paul videos, I think, didn't I? I made 3 Ron Paul videos and I made 2 men's rights movement videos. They all brought out the champions of those particular causes, and I got a lot of negative feedback on those. I don't know if I would call it a backlash, though, because a backlash suggests that there was some sort of a broad negative reaction, that I was made to suffer for it, and that has not been the case. The Ron Paul videos and the men's rights movement videos are both among my most popular videos that I've ever made, and I haven't lost subscribers for any of those. You know, I mean, a lot of the men's rights activists who commented on my MRM videos were saying things like, "Oh, your channel is fucked now. You're going to lose so many subscribers for saying this, blah blah blah." And I did lose some subscribers. There were some people, I checked my stats, who clicked the unsubscribe button when they watched one of those videos. But I also gained subscribers, and I actually have a net gain from both of those men's rights movement videos. I've gained more subscribers from them than I lost because of them. So I don't know if I would call it a backlash, but definitely a very strong, vociferous negative reaction to Ron Paul and the men's rights movement. They really don't like those two groups, and their behavior is very identical. I think if you took out these specific references to either Ron Paul or the men's rights movement, and you looked at the comments on both of those videos without knowing which one was which, I don't think you'd be able to tell which video you were looking at, because the vitriol, just the anger, and the stung, wounded quality of lots of those comments are exactly the same on the Ron Paul and on the men's rights movement videos. They really don't like it when you say that you don't like them. The Reinhardt 86, if you had to renounce your citizenship and move to another country, where would you go? To make it interesting, let's assume your wife is in prison and won't be going with you. What did my wife do to get thrown in prison? That sounds like a much more fascinating subject than which country I would move to. I would probably move to Canada, just because it's right there and there's no language barrier, the cultures are similar enough. It just seems like that would be the obvious place to go, is Canada. The only thing stopping me from moving to Canada right now is the weather, honestly. Canada seems like such a lovely place, and I just, if it weren't for the cold weather, I would seriously consider just pulling up stakes and moving to Canada with my wife, who is not imprisoned right now. If Canada and Mexico could somehow switch places, I would be fucking there. I mean, that's because I don't mind hot weather, but I'm a total pussy when it comes to cold weather. I'm just not down with it at all. And I've lived through 33 Maryland winters, which are relatively mild considering, you know, the rest of the country. I mean, people from Minnesota really know what it's like to live through a shitty winter. People from the further up in the Northeast really know what it's like to live through a shitty winter in the United States. And I've just survived relatively mild Maryland winters, and I'm just about done with it. You know, I don't like cold, I don't like snow, I don't like ice. When I was a kid and up into when I was a teenager, I used to go hunting with my father. And when I was old enough to sort of call my own shots and decide for myself what I was going to do and not going to do, I stopped hunting. And I told people, and I still tell people today, that it was because I didn't like hunting. I objected to it for moral reasons, or I just didn't see the purpose of hunting myself. And that is true. I do feel that way, and that is a very important part of it. I honestly think it is kind of senseless, and I don't see the point of me shooting this beautiful animal that I don't have to kill. You know, that's a huge part of it. But a lot of it is also, and especially at the time, was the cold. It just sucked to get up early in the morning and sit in the fucking cold ass forest for hours and wait for a deer to walk by and then try to shoot it. And you're sitting there huddled on the ground against a tree, and you're holding a fucking cold iron gun in your hand, and it was just awful. So the cold weather is just fucking, me and the cold weather don't get along. I'm just not down with it. And if the weather was nice in Canada, I'm sure the weather is very nice in Canada, but if it were a little warmer for more of the time, and the cold was less of a factor, I would seriously consider moving to fucking Canada, whether I had to go or not. Mr. Shannonite, here goes. You get the chance to make your ideal Star Trek episode using any of the characters from all the shows and have any protagonists of your choosing from any of the shows. Who would they be? Wow, that is a hell of a nerdy question. I love Deep Space Nine. I love Captain Sisko. I don't think that character was given a proper send-off in the last season, in the last episode of that show. So I would probably want to do something with Deep Space Nine and those characters. I loved Sisko. I loved Worf on Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. I just thought that whole DS9 cast was full of really interesting characters and really entertaining actors. And I would probably want to do something with Deep Space Nine. Try to write like a proper bookend for Deep Space Nine. Really send those characters off on a much more satisfying note. Although, of course, it would also be fun just to tell a Captain Kirk story. Now that we've sort of rewound back to the early days of Captain Kirk, and he and his crew are young and sort of in their original series forms again. You can't do anything better than Captain Kirk. It would be fun to do like just like a non-tent pole Star Trek story, just like an adventure of the Enterprise with the younger versions of the crew. That would be a lot of fun to do too. Tomcat53, I just watched one of your previous videos and just have to ask, how do you really feel about Nicolas Cage as an actor? I couldn't tell from your talent comments about him in Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, if they were sincere or sarcastic. Oh, they were sincere. I really think Nicolas Cage is a very good actor. I also think that he is an irrepressible ham. I think he's an actor who's capable of really good acting, but he's very strongly attracted to the sort of things that, like when you take an acting class, that they tell you not to do. Being incredibly big and overzealous and just acting for the rafters, even though the camera is like right there. And I don't know. I admire those things about Nicolas Cage. They're not necessarily the sorts of things that you look for when you normally think of what makes a film actor a good actor. But man, is he entertaining to watch. I don't think that he's a shitty actor at all. I think he's a great actor. You might say that he's a great bad actor, but he's still a great actor. I absolutely am. When I say he's talented, I was being a little sarcastic when I talk about like his talents as displayed in Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, because that's one of those movies where he's just sort of nuts. Like the remake of Wicker Man, that's another one. Where he's just completely bonkers for the whole movie, and he's just so well suited to those sorts of roles and to those films where he is able to do that and to have it work and fit within the film. And I think he's very talented. I mean that absolutely sincerely. I think he is a great actor. Paul Ross Fletcher, is there a deity of any theology, mythology that you know of that you would be willing to worship if they existed? Or do you hold an anti-theistic position? I would not be willing to worship any deity, but it doesn't have as much to do with me being anti-theistic as it does with just my conviction that worship in general is not a good thing and is not something that we ought to be doing as people for anything. Respect, love, admiration, looking at something as a role model, as something to aspire to, that's all well and good and necessary in many ways, but worship, I just don't really see how that's a good thing. I don't really see how it's good to worship things, to grovel and prostrate ourselves in front of things, and to refuse to even entertain the possibility that they might have flaws, or they might be wrong, or they might not be the thing we should be turning to for our standards and everything, and maybe they don't deserve this level of praise that we're giving them. So, and also, I mean, most gods are there to be worshipped. They demand worship, and it's sort of like the Will Rogers saying, "I would never be a member of any club that would have me." Like a catch-22. Any god, any being that demands worship is automatically, in my eyes, unworthy of worship. So worship is just out. Worship is just right out. Pauline Hendrickson, greetings, Steve. Would you find the ambition to rid the world of superstition, discrimination, and general ideological madness realistic? If you think it can be done, how long do you think it would take, and what methods should be applied? I really would like to see a free world in my lifetime, but I have little hope. I don't think it's realistic to say that within your lifetime or my lifetime or perhaps even the lifetime of my hypothetical grandchildren that we could have a world free of superstition. Superstition, religion, etc. has been with us virtually from the beginning of our species. There are aspects of our natures, of our brains that make us very susceptible to these sorts of beliefs, and I don't think that we can ever really look forward to a day when we just won't have these beliefs, or when these beliefs won't be appearing within our species. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad goal to have. It doesn't mean that it's bad work, or that it's work that isn't worth doing. I think opposing superstition, I think disillusioning people of superstition and of delusion, etc., is very important. And it's something that should be done. Superstitious beliefs, religious beliefs, or beliefs that are based on false or unverifiable premises, they should always be challenged. They should always be argued against. You should always be willing and able to present the naturalistic viewpoint, the scientific viewpoint, the rational viewpoint. I really hate the idea of, well, that's just their belief and they're entitled to it. Well, yeah, I mean, they are entitled to it. They're entitled to believe whatever they want, but that doesn't mean that you have to just sort of sit there with your mouth shut, sitting on your hands, and just let them say and believe whatever they want. The world would be a better place if more people believed more true things. I just believe that. I think that that is a rational, a rational point of view. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll ever happen in my lifetime. I don't think it'll happen in multiple lifetimes from now, but it's still work very much worth doing. Opposing superstition, opposing religion, educating people to the true wonders of the world, to the true wonders of the universe, how things really work, and how fascinating and beautiful and wonderful that really is, instead of these dry, old, dead, boring, puny, superstitious beliefs. That's a very commendable goal and very important work that should be done. Lenny81, what are your thoughts on death from an atheist perspective? I've just recently lost a cousin to a horrific car accident. She got her license and was on her first drive alone when she pulled out in front of a semi-truck not 50 yards from her home. She was only 16. I have a huge family, all very close, and they are all charismatic Christians except one uncle and my younger brother, which along with myself are both atheist. Just curious to get your perspective. My perspective on death as an atheist and just as me is that I'm scared of it. I don't look forward to it. I don't look forward to not existing. It's somewhat comforting to tell myself that I won't care at the time, that once I'm gone, I'll be gone, and there will be no more fear, and there will be no more pain, and it'll just be over. It'll be complete unconsciousness forever. But while I'm here and conscious, I would like that to continue, and I don't look forward to that. I don't look forward to oblivion, and it scares me. I don't like it, and I don't like, I don't like to see it happen to other people either. I mean, I don't. The thing about being an atheist and dealing with death is that you don't have the false comforts that religious folks have allowed themselves. You can't say honestly, well, she's in a better place. Well, it was all part of a plan. It was all what's supposed to happen. We'll see her again someday. You can't say that because you don't think that that's so. So you have to reconcile yourself to the fact that the person you loved is gone. They're nowhere now. You know, they're, at least as a person, as a consciousness, they're just gone. And you have no choice but to just live with that, to just accept that. And that is a very bitter pill to swallow. No matter who it is, whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member, if it's anyone you gave a shit about, it's just a difficult thing to get through. But that's what you have to do. You have to get through it. And you have to continue to live your life. And you can think about the fact that the person you lost was really here. Their life did take place. There's nothing that will ever change that. You know, the experiences you had, the memories you share with them really happened and will always have happened. And maybe that's some comfort. And you'll always have your thoughts and your memories of this person. You'll always be able to think of what it was like to be with them. And that's some comfort. And that's really, and the thing is, that's the best we can do. I mean, you might be able to lie to yourself and say, well, you know, okay, maybe she is still somewhere. Maybe there is an afterlife. Maybe she is in a better place. Maybe I will see her again someday. Maybe we do survive our death. I mean, if that sort of thing makes you feel better, I'm certainly not going to tell a grieving person, you know, not to do that. I'm not going to try to shatter the comforting delusion of a person who's in the grip of grief. I mean, that's just, that to me is kind of a horrible thing to do. But I don't think any of that stuff is real. I think the truth is, the stark facts are that you just have to accept this incredibly sad and inevitable thing. And I mean, my condolences to you and your family for the loss of your cousin. That is, I mean, when I was in high school, we had an incident where there were three classmates of mine. We weren't in the same class. They were schoolmates, I guess I should say. They were a few years ahead of me, and they were driving to school that morning. And there was an accident. I think they swerved to miss a truck, and they ran off the road, and they hit a tree, and three of them, and they were killed. They were all killed. And school that day was just absolutely silent. I mean, there was, you know, the three kids were relatively well known. They were relatively popular kids in school. So a lot of my fellow schoolmates were friends of theirs. I was not a close friend of theirs myself, but lots of my friends were, and it was just awful. It was just awful. And I mean, but what else could we do? There was nothing else to do. You just have you get through it. You console each other. You take comfort in your friends and your family and the people you love that are still here, and you just do the best you can. You know, there's nothing else you can do. And you know, I don't know. It's a tough subject. It's a tough subject, and it's a tough thing to deal with, whether you're an atheist or whether you're a Christian or whatever. And I'm not going to do the thunder sound effect because it seems inappropriate. Let's just go to the lightning round, shall we?
The lightning round. Rapid fire questions. Glib and adequate answers.
Liam J., would you welcome a new Star Trek TV series? I'd like to see a new captain, ship, and crew. Yeah, that would be nice. I would be interested to see a TV series set in the Abrams verse, because as I've said in multiple videos, I'm a big fan of that version of Star Trek. Test meat doll steak. Analingus, do you perform it, or have you had it performed on you? No, and you misspelled analingus. Practical Magic 9. Usually you have coffee in the Orioles mug. Do you only bring out the Swayze mug for very special episodes? Second favorite Swayze movie and why? Actually, now there is only the Orioles mug. I broke the Swayze mug. I dropped it and it broke, and I had to throw it away. And I didn't say anything at the time because I just couldn't bring myself to tell you. favorite Swayze movie is Roadhouse, because it's awesomely bad. Next is Zombie Pineapple. What's your policy on Facebook friend requests? I usually accept them, so feel free to ask. John Torrance 67. Have you ever seen a therapist? Surprisingly, no. His on first, or who's on first? How the fuck do you pronounce that? There are no vowels in that name. Who's on first? His on first? Whatever. Steve, you wouldn't leave your cat behind if you went to Mars, would you? No, no, no. I wouldn't. If I had to move somewhere, I wouldn't go if I couldn't take my cat. Or my wife, unless she was in prison, as previously discussed. Ike Mark 1955. Does this Lindelof Star Trek Into Darkness script make up for his Prometheus screenplay? I actually thought Prometheus was alright. I like Prometheus, so he doesn't have anything to make up for, as far as I'm concerned, in that department. But yeah, the script for Star Trek Into Darkness is awesome. If I did think that Lindelof had something to make up for because of Prometheus, yes, Into Darkness would have made up for it, because I really, really liked how that film was written. STS German. Which science do you admire the most? Physics, chemistry, biology, etc. Astronomy. Astronomy is and always has been my favorite science. Nunano001. Now that J.J. Abrams is moving on to Star Wars, who would you choose to direct any future Star Trek films, and why? Paul Thomas Anderson, because I would probably be the only person who would like that Star Trek movie. I don't know, Paul Thomas Anderson doing Star Trek just makes me all kinds of happy. Everybody would hate that movie. On a more serious note, I don't know, I'd like to see Bryan Singer take a crack at it. Sensible Oxymoron. Lightning round question. Do you suggest a major in English? Only if you hate money. And David Landon, Steve, Coke or Pepsi, diet or regular, peanut butter, crunchy or smooth, Mac or other. Okay, Coke, regular, smooth, although I did have a bit of a crunchy phase, and PC. I've used Macs before, but I've never owned one, and I've never felt the need to switch over to being a Mac guy. So there you go. That's it for the questions. That's it for the lightning round. But as always, before I leave, I want to leave you with a shout out. And the shout out this week goes to FFRFcrankmail. This is a channel with a incredibly simple and perfect premise. Ellie, the woman who runs this channel, I don't think Ellie is her real name. I believe that is a pseudonym. But her concept is this. She opens up her copy of Free Thought Today, the newsletter printed by the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and she reads the hate mail, the crank mail that the FFRF publishes in Free Thought Today. She reads it verbatim, typos and strange phrasings intact, and I am somewhat attracted to this. I feel a kinship with this because I do something kind of similar with my Riffing on Mail Call series. Although Ellie on FFRF Crankmail just reads it. She just lets you hear what the people are saying. And it is absolutely priceless. If you are not watching FFRF Crankmail, she has about 20 or so videos up at this point. And it's just hysterical. It's so wonderful. And if you are an atheist and somehow you are not smug enough yet, this is the perfect channel to go to tank up your smugness. Listen to what the religious haters are saying to the Freedom from Religion Foundation. It is wonderful. That's it for this week. Thank you so much. There were so many awesome questions this week. Even with the advent of the lightning round, it was a cruel and heartbreaking process to weed through the questions to get them down to a reasonable number for me to do in this video. It was just an embarrassment of riches, so please continue that. Ask me anything. Ask me questions about anything you want to hear me talk about, any subject. Nothing is off limits. Clearly nothing is too serious and sobering, and also nothing is too frivolous and stupid and pointless, because this week we talked about death and we talked a shitload about Star Trek. So there you go. There's your rainbow from one side to the other. Ask me anything. I'll try to answer as many of them as I can next week, because for me to do this, you have to ask. So please ask. Leave a comment on this video and ask your question. I so very much appreciate you watching, and I will see you next week.